Hi, it's Jenny with Jenny's Wreath Boutique, and in this video I'm sharing a compilation of 6 different fall wreath tutorials in one video, so I hope you enjoy. Let me know which wreath is your favorite. And in this video I'm going to show you how to make a gorgeous, bright colored fall wreath. The materials you're going to need for this wreath are a 14-inch grapevine. We're using pretty large leaves and stems, so this will make a 22 to 23-inch size wreath, so it's perfect for your front door. So I have some fall, like maroon colored maple leaves. Oh, I love these. They're so pretty. And then some berries. These are more like crab apples. So big and pretty. And then I have some crotons. Oh, look at that color. It's so vibrant. So I have some of that color right here. And then I have some orange. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so bright and vibrant, which is happening again. I know that beige, I'm a sucker for beige and those neutral tones, but there's like that camp, which I'm kind of in, and then there's the other camp that's really craving that rich fall color, which I love that too. So that's what this wreath is going to be. All right, I'm also using hot glue and a hot glue gun and my favorite wire cutters and also some floral wire. I don't know if you can see that. This is 24 gauge. That's my favorite gauge to use. All right, the first thing we're going to do is clean up our grapevine. I also wanted to mention, if you have one of those grapevines that's more airy, this is a larger one, but you might have seen this kind of grapevine in the store and not been happy with it. But you know what? This kind of wreath that I'm about to make actually works really well with this kind of wreath because there's lots of open spaces. We have thicker stems and we're going to be using floral wire in addition to hold things down. So if you don't have a nice grapevine like this, that's totally fine. These work great too. And there's like no cleanup on these, which is kind of a bonus. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take our first greenery and cut it up. If you have a kit, you won't have to cut it up. I will have it cut up for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these around the wreath. We're going to glue that stem and put this one more toward the inside. And if you're having a hard time getting it to stay in place, this is where the floral wire comes in. You don't have to use it, but I like to sometimes. And I just make it into a U shape like this. And then I push it through the grapevine. And then I just twist it on the back, or I'll just tighten it like this. It goes a little bit faster, but I'm just twisting it and then tucking it into the grapevine. We have a piece on the inside. Now we're going to put some on the outside. And don't be afraid to let it fly free. Let it really go sticking out from the grapevine, because that will make a larger wreath. You can also twist these leaves so they face forward, although the back of these leaves look pretty nice. So I'm just rotating inside and outside of the grapevine. And like I said, if you are wanting more control, use that floral wire. little bit more control, so I'm actually going to cut these leaves off. All right, now we have our first layer of greenery down. I feel weird saying greenery because it's not green, but you know. Now we're going to add in the orange. Look at that. Oh, it's a fiery wreath. So now I'm just going to take these extra leaves I have and fill in any gaps that you see. Just helps the wreath look nice and full. And we can just use up everything we have. So now that we have our 2 layers of crotons, wow. This is so gorgeous. So pretty. So now you'll probably get them in a kit like this. Then you can just cut them into smaller pieces. So we have smaller stems, we have more control. Some leaves are facing forward, some are facing backward. You can leave it, or you can twist some of them front. It's a little trick I have. Just twist them so they're facing front. And now we're just gonna put these in the wreath, lifting up the crotons, finding a good spot in the grapevine, and just really mix them in and incorporate everything. And I just love that darker color. It kind of calms down the bright orange a little bit, but adds some depth of color. I just love it. So pretty. I mean, this has those oranges, and this has that bright red. It all comes together in these other croton leaves that are really vibrant. And this wreath actually comes together pretty fast, which I really like. And one thing we want to make sure of, especially with maple leaves, is that we are leaving a good size hole in the middle of the wreath. Sometimes it's really easy because these are so big and wide and they cover up a lot of things. It's easy to lose the middle. So when we're putting it into the grapevine, make sure you're either putting it straight in or angled out. So we have so far. Look how vibrant and gorgeous this is. You could leave it like that, but this is just our last extra special piece that really adds a fun detail and really brings this wreath together. It's our berries. Woo, I'm so excited. And I'm just using 5 clumps. And we're just going to place these around the wreath, just 5 of them. And since these berries are in the same kind of color, they kind of hide a little bit, but not really. The shape and texture is different, and so they kind of stand out, but I just love how they're a fun surprise in here. It just adds so much depth to this wreath. And in my opinion, monochromatic looks a little higher end. So if you love a bright wreath, you are just going to love this one. It's so fun. This will really pop off your door, really be seen from the street. Oh, I love it. So pretty. All right, here it is. I love it. It's so pretty. Look at those berries and all the details of the leaves. Oh my goodness. This is so pretty. So if you want to add a loop to the back, all you have to do is grab some jute twine. Here we go. Figure out where you want to hang your wreath. And then you just tie it to the grapevine, and that is how I hang my wreaths. Of course, you can hang it straight from the grapevine. There's lots of little places. We're going to be making a gorgeous fall wreath. Let's get into this gorgeous wreath. The first thing you're going to need is a 14-inch grapevine. That's what I'm going to use. You can use a larger size if you're making this for yourself. This will make about a 22-inch size total, so it's a good size wreath for your front door. We're also going to need hot glue and hot glue gun, my favorite wire cutters. These are all listed under tools in the description, so you can easily find those tools that I use with every single wreath. The materials you're going to need for this wreath are this gorgeous mixed laurel bush. It's got these fun little twigs. It's beautiful color, some red berries. They look like mini rose hips. They're so cute. And I have this, it's called a Ramosa leaf spray. Look at that vibrant yellow, and it just offers a different texture leaf, which I love. And then I have 2 different colors of these laurel leaf stems. Aren't they gorgeous? We have the orange and the yellow, and it kind of ties off the yellow here. So this is just a beautiful, very fall-like wreath. I've already trimmed up my grapevine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my laurel leaf stems. I'm going to gather all of those and separate them by color. And just so you know, sometimes the leaves can fall out. If that happens, there'll be a little nub. Can you see that little nub right there? And then your leaf has a little hole in the bottom. Just dab a little bit of glue. And this happens even with the best supplies, so it's always good to check. They mostly stay in, but every now and then you have one that comes out. So now that I have these divided, so when you cut it in half, you'll have one like this that has one strong stem, and then the other one has 2 smaller stems. So I'm just going to do that with all of them and separate them into piles. I'm going to start with 4 sets of stems. If I need more, I'll do that, but I think we're only going to need 4 stems. So now I'm doing the same thing with it's like a mustard yellow. Doing the same thing with these stems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting these all the way around the wreath in layers. So I'm going to just start with my gold as the first layer. And I like to do one layer all the way around because that way everything is even. And I'm not halfway through the wreath or 3/4 the way through the wreath and realize I don't have enough product. That would be terrible. If you notice one of your leaves isn't perfect, like this one, looks like it has a chunk out of it, I recut the stem and no one would know that that wasn't a perfect leaf. I should do one more. So I'm doing the long piece on the outside and then the shorter ones more on the inside for this yellow. It doesn't really matter. And I'm gluing the stem long on the long side and I'm putting it along the grain of the grapevine so the stems are not poking out the back. See how nice and clean that is? And I am going to do 5 stems of each color now that I've gone around. And this is a pretty large 14-inch grapevine. It's probably more like 15. So you might not need that many for whatever grapevine you have. I'm going to do 5. And sometimes with paper wrapped things, like this has a paper layer wrapped, you can also dab a little bit of glue up by the top so everything stays in, which will be helpful for the longevity of your wreath. So there we have our first layer of greenery, or I guess it's not green, foliage. We're going to do the same thing except we're going to do it with the next color. So I'm going to do one on the inside, one on the outside, just every other. So these will go in between the yellow. And then we're going to be doing every other just like we did before. So the 2-piece, and then the 1. And don't worry, we have lots of other things to put in. So it will be nice and full. I love these. The shape of them is so nice and fluffy. So just putting these in gives it a really nice full look, which I love. Sometimes just having the right materials makes wreath making so much easier. And by sometimes, I mean all the time. So I feel that those are a little loose, so I'm just going to add a dab of glue on the top just to hold everything in place. And if you have leaves that are turned backwards and you want more to turn forward, you can literally just twist them on the stem. I do that all the time. Yeah. But the back of these leaves are just yellow, so it looks fine anyway. So I'm going to put 2 of these in the same section because we will run out of space if I don't. And then this one will finish it off. Okay, So our last two things are this and this. This is the laurel leaves, basically the same, just another color to add some more depth, richness, and interest. So I'm going to do these last because I'm going to mix in this other color. So now I'm going to separate these. See how there's like a section with two? There's a section with two and then one. So I'm going to separate those so I have a nice little stem and then little sections so I can incorporate these throughout the wreath easier. So there's sections with one and sections with two. That's all I'm doing. And since I'm just using one, a little bit goes a long way. And I'm just going to add these throughout the wreath and incorporate the leaves so it really just fills in nicely. I love the added texture that these bring. So pretty. Ooh, I love it. And remember to use these sparingly because we don't have as many. This is one of the more expensive items that's just so high quality. And that's one thing I like to do is use the most expensive item more sparingly, but it really adds that beautiful texture. That way you can keep your costs down a little bit, but still have a beautiful wreath. This is so pretty. See how I'm incorporating it into the rest of the wreath? It looks so good. Like it was meant to be there. Okay. So we have the yellow and now all we have is this one left. And what I'm going to do, this has one of these. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save these for the end. You don't have to use them. I think they're kind of a fun way to add a little texture and interest. So I'm going to cut this into 3 pieces. And we're just going to use that for some texture throughout the wreath at the end. And for this one, we're just going to cut individual picks so that everything spreads evenly throughout. So some of them will come apart and you can just wrap the bendy part around the stem and then we'll glue it, of course, when it goes into the wreath. So I'm cutting them up so that we have different picks. So this one, and this helps incorporate the berries throughout the wreath better if we have them all separated. And I'm just separating them by berry. Like this could be 2 individual pieces, but I'm going to keep it as one. It'll just make everything go by faster. But these will be separated because there's different berries in each of those. And I want the berries to go all the way around the wreath, spread out nicely. So now we're just going to incorporate this into the wreath. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm probably going to stick these in between every piece of the yellow leaves. Although they blend in so well, it's hard to tell where they begin and end. But just space it out evenly so you don't have to take anything out and redo it. Isn't that pretty? Ooh. And make sure you're gluing up the stem so everything stays together. Looking so good. So now I'm just going to add these around the wreath. I'm going to put them in the middle and then just 3 around. And that just gives it a nice rustic, natural look. And I like using all the pieces if I can. And like I said, if you're not into the twiggy look, you can totally leave these out, but I like them because I like my wreaths to look as natural as possible. And then I like to just, curve it around. There. So cute. And then to hang, you can either hang it straight from the grapevine or you can add some jute twine. That's what I like to do. First of all, look at the back. Looks gorgeous. There's one piece that might be, maybe a couple pieces I could cut, but other than that, it looks great. And then this one looks like it could use extra glue right there. It didn't get great contact. Anyway, so I'm going to see where it hangs best by just holding it up, looking back at it. Remember, you can always fluff and adjust things. The best spot is right here. So I'm just going to stick my twine through there. You can use some needle nose pliers if you like. Sometimes that helps. I just usually can stick mine through without any extra help though. And then I just make a nice loop. All right, and here it is. What do you think? Isn't it beautiful? I just love this bright fall foliage. It looks so good. We're going to be making a gorgeous pear fall wreath. Let's go over the materials you're going to need to make this wreath. First, we are using a 14-inch grapevine. You can use a larger size, of course. I like a 14-inch to start. I'm also using some neutral cream-colored bunny tails, some blackberries. Look how pretty those are. They look so real. The focal point of this wreath is going to be the pears. Pears are so on trend right now. I love them. Look at that gorgeous color. Some thistle, yellow pip berries, and a couple different kinds of beige leaves. And I'm also using my favorite wire cutters, a hot glue gun, and hot glue. And my favorites are linked in the description under tools. Seriously, these are the best. We're going to start with our first layer of greenery. I'm using these beige leaves. These are from Michael's. I love them. I use them in a lot of different wreaths. So I'm just cutting it up first. Now we're going to add in our first layer by just dabbing some glue onto the stem and placing it along the grain of the grapevine. So I put some on the inside, and now I'll put some on the outside. And I'm going to do this all the way around the wreath. This grapevine's a little bit on the airy side, so it's really important to make good contact with the glue and the stem and the grapevine. Now that we have our first layer in, we're going to move on to our beige aspen leaves. These are also from Michael's. I've been using so many of these this season. They are a staple in my wreath shop. So I'm just cutting the stems into individual pieces. And for a stem like this, I'm going to cut it in two. And now we're going to add these around the wreath, just filling in the gaps where we don't have maple leaves. I know it looks sparse now, but just wait as we add in the layers. It's going to look better and better. If I notice too many nubs that are, I call these nubs, that are without a leaf, sometimes I'll take one from the bottom and then I will dab some glue in the middle and move that leaf a little bit higher up so it's more full on top. And because we put everything along the grain of the grapevine, nothing sticks out the back. So look how nice and clean the back looks. And everything's more secure that way. Next, we're going to add in some bunny tails. These are from Hobby Lobby, but any kind of faux grasses, very trendy right now. Anything that looks like a dried grass, but it's a lot cleaner to use faux. Way less messy. So I'm just going to add these in. These are from Hobby Lobby, but you can find them at Michael's as well. And I'm just going to add these in. They make a great filler and they add a really fun, trendy texture. Here's a lighter color and one that's a little darker. I don't know if you can tell the difference. So I'm going to mix these. It's looking good so far, and if you're really into neutrals, you can just leave it like this, just add a little bit more to fill it in. But of course, we're going to be adding some pears. So I only have one of these. I got this in my Michael's, or in my fall haul. These are from Michael's and they're gorgeous. So I'm just going to take this off in 3 pieces. So I will have a section with a big pear and a little pear, and then one with a big pear and 2 little pears. And I'm gonna put them on together so they're in little groups of 3. I always recommend groups of 3 or 5. And since this is more of an expensive item, I like to, you know, use a little bit less to keep my costs down a little. But of course, if you have a bigger budget, add more. And I love these little brown curly stems. They're so fun. They add so much texture and interest. And I'm making sure my glue goes up the stem a little bit because these are paper wrapped and I don't want that to come undone. So the glue is going to hold that together as well as hold it into the wreath. So I'm lifting up the foliage and I'm putting the stem into the grapevine underneath it so it just mixes in really well. If the stem doesn't have good contact with the grapevine and glue, I just add a little bit more just to be extra safe. That's one thing I like about using a glue gun instead of a glue pot. All right, so we have our pears. They look so cute, and feel free to bend them however you like so it looks really nice throughout the wreath. Now we're going to add some texture. I'm going to add in these thistles. These are from Hobby Lobby. Fall is all about those gorgeous textures, especially if you're doing a more neutral wreath like this. So I'm adding the larger stems in between each set of pears, and then I'm going to add in the other ones more around it to fill in the gaps. I'm going to add in a few more things. These blackberries are so fun, and I love how it kind of goes with the fruit theme. So we have more of a harvest look, and it just really looks so natural. Plus the black really complements the thistles. Look at those. So cute. Aren't these fun how it just kind of dangles out a little bit? Okay, and now to add another pop of yellow that really complements the pears, we're going to add in these berries. And these are also from Hobby Lobby, but any kind of golden yellow texture you can find would be great. If a berry falls off, you just dab a little bit of glue in the middle. There's always a hole there. And then find a spot where it can fit, like right there. These come off a lot, so to make sure your wreath is extra durable, tug on these little nubs, and sometimes they'll come off pretty easily, sometimes not. That one's good. Sometimes that little prep you do makes all the difference in the quality of your wreath, so it will last for years to come, especially if your door gets slammed a lot or something. You don't want stuff falling off your wreath. All right, so I'm just going to add these in. You can also use some birch leaves. I got these from one of my wholesale companies. You can find something very similar to Hobby Lobby, but I really like how this leaf complements the pears, so I'm going to add in a few of these as well, but not a lot. I'm actually going to separate them into individual picks that are pretty small. Some have 2, just to add a pop of color. You could leave it before we get to this point. I really like the extra yellow this brings. It actually really matches these pears so well. Okay, so here is the finished product. Isn't this so cute? And the pears just really mix in so well. There they are, just hanging out. I'm going to teach you how to make this wreath, and I'm going to do it all just from using garland. Garland can be a great way to make a wreath that's really simple and easy. It can be a little tedious, but it's so worth it. For this wreath, I'm using 2 different kinds of garland. I'm using this from Hobby Lobby, And I love it because it just has these fall elements with these little white flowers. They're so cute. And I'm using this one with little pampas grass, also from Hobby Lobby. And I just thought these two work so well together. And they're in the year-round section, so I'm getting a head start on my fall creations before all the fall items go on sale. So there's a tip for you. You can also use any kind of garland that you like. Just pick one that has beautiful greenery, maybe pick one or two, and then use these steps to make that wreath. We're also going to be using a grapevine. I'm using a 14-inch grapevine, and I've already cleaned it up. I'm also using hot glue and a hot glue gun and my favorite wire cutters. Let's get started. This wreath is really simple. The first thing I'm going to do is actually cut this garland a little bit because it's easier to work with in smaller pieces. And since I'm using a 14-inch grapevine, I'm not going to have to use the entire garland. So I'm just going to cut it up in pieces so it can fit on the table. Actually, I didn't even need to cut that. This one I can just unwrap. I like to get them at Hobby Lobby when they are half off. So if they're not half off, wait a week or two and they will be. They're cute. You could leave them in bigger chunks like this and use in other wreaths. I just love these garlands. I'll get to these in a minute. I'm going to just cut these in pieces like this. This one has a double, and then some of them have one. So just cut it up however it makes sense to you. So there are some pieces that are by themselves and some have double. So I'm just cutting them so they have a little bit of a stem. This one has a short stem, so I'm going to keep that together as well. I love these because it looks like dried grasses, but they're faux, so they're a lot easier to work with and they'll last a little bit longer. I'm just separating these so there's one flower, oops, per thing, like this. So each bundle has one flower. And since these are paper wrapped, I'm trying to do as little cutting as possible. All right, now that we have all our sections cut up, we're going to just place them into the wreath, alternating between these and these as you see fit according to your own grapevine. I chose one that's a little bit tighter because the stems I have are pretty small. So if this was a more open weave, I would make a different style wreath. So I specifically chose this grapevine because it's a tighter weave. So I'm just going to glue, and I'm gluing all the way up to past the paper where it starts, so the stems are all glued together as well. So I'm going to do a couple of these. And then I'm going to add my grasses. And I'm just going to be alternating however I see fit so that the gaps are covered and it'll look really pretty. If you want another example of a wreath I've made with all garland, I have a tutorial here on YouTube showing how I make my mini eucalyptus wreath, but you can use that for a full-size wreath as well. You just need more eucalyptus. I will link that in the description box so you can see it. some people take a garland and they don't take it apart and they just tie it to the wreath or wire it or zip tie or something. I don't recommend doing that because it looks a lot less put together and nice, putting it bluntly. And yes, this does take longer and is a little more tedious, but the wreath looks so much better in the end, and you have so much more control over where every stem is placed. All right, here it is. What do you guys think? It looks so good. And I didn't even use 2 full garlands. I still have this much left of one and this much left of the other. This video, we're going to be making a gorgeous fall grapevine wreath. The materials you're going to need for this wreath are a 14-inch grapevine. If you want a bigger wreath, you can always use an 18-inch grapevine or something like that. And we're also going to be using this bow that I've made already. And I just love the color so much. I have a bunch of different greenery, fall greenery. So I have the seeding skimmia. I have some fall grasses. These are super trendy right now, so I love it. Look at these. Here's the skimmia. And I also have these cream berries. I love these. These are from Hobby Lobby. I just love having a good berry. And then I have some fall birch leaves. These are this has that yellow undertone, which I love, that harvest gold or that mustard yellow, whatever you want to call it. So these are super cute. And then I have some fall colored eucalyptus, and it has a little bit of the purple in here, which I like too. Gives it one more color for dimension. I also have hot glue and a hot glue gun, and then I also need my wire cutters. Since this wreath has an exposed grapevine, we want to put a nice even part that shows. And since this is more airy, I'm going to leave this part exposed because I want to have lots of spaces to put my things into the wreath. So here we have our 14-inch grapevine all cleaned up, ready to go. So I'm going to grab my bow, and I have a free bow tutorial. If you haven't grabbed that yet, it's linked in the description of this video. I love this mustard color. This is with a 1-inch ribbon, wired ribbon, and I just love this mustard color so much. It's so cute, and I thought it would be perfect for fall. So I'm not going to put the ribbon in yet, or the bow in yet. I'm just going to figure out where I want it, and that's going to be where I put my greenery around. And by greenery, I mean fall foliage, because none of it's green. Okay, so we have that. So first we're going to start with our base greenery. Since this one's more flat, I'm going to put it on the bottom. So I've just trimmed off some pieces so that I can be more in control of where I place it. So I'm just going to place this around to get the shape of the wreath going. I'm just gluing the stems and sticking them along the grain of the grapevine, just like that. And this is going to give our wreath a nice shape. And notice how I'm just putting a little piece into the grapevine and letting it flow out from there. One mistake I see people make a lot is they put everything just tight onto the grapevine and it doesn't let the wreath breathe, and it makes the wreath smaller. And I like this because you can make a good size wreath with just a 14-inch grapevine. And then I'm going to save these for later, just in case I need them. Now we're going to do the next greenery, which is this fall eucalyptus. It's from Hobby Lobby. If any pieces fall off, you can just dab some glue right in that little hole. And then glue it to where it fell off. And right here is where it fell off. You see the little stem? So I'm just gluing that back on. If there are pieces missing from the top, you can take them from the bottom and put them there. That's what I'm doing. These come off pretty easily, so it's nice to just check and re-glue. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is use our seeding skimmia spray. I love these. These little seed heads are so pretty, and look how this has that purpley color from the leaves here, and it has that golden yellow and that brown color. So this really ties all those colors in, which I love. This is one of the favorite things I got this year. I love it. The quality is amazing. And this adds such a fun texture to everything. Some texture and interest. I love it. And I'm going to cut this last one in half. Since I don't want a super long piece sticking out back here, I'll just do a small one. I mean, you could stop here and it looks great, but I'm going to keep going. So I can either add these berries or this fall texture. I'm actually going to add the bow in now, so it'll be easier to see where I want to place everything else. So I am just adding these. And you can use a different color pipe cleaner, of course. I just always use white because that's what I have on hand. And I'm just adding this through the grapevine and I'm twisting it on the back. You can use a brown pipe cleaner or yellow or really anything, any color you want. And it's great. And then of course you can fluff up the bow, but I like to fluff it up afterward. I'm always fluffing stuff. Okay, so now we have that and we're just gonna add in our final touches. And like I said, you can just leave it like this and it's gorgeous. I was trying to decide whether I should put pampas grass in or berries. I think I'm going to do the pampas grass actually. And these are actually foxtails. It's a kind of pampas grass, I believe. They're like little mini pampas grasses. They're so cute. And these are great because the shape really matches the eucalyptus, which I think is really nice. And then I'm just going to add in a few of these white berries or cream berries. You could have stopped before the pampas grass and this wreath would look beautiful and complete, but sometimes it's fun to go a little further. Okay, now that our wreath is done, we can just take our tails of the bow, and I like to cut them at a slight angle. And I like to keep it long as well. So pretty. Oh, I love it. Okay, here it is. What do you guys think? I love it so much. It turned out even better than I had hoped. I love all the fall colors and textures, and ooh, I just love it. And I think the bow brings it all together. What do you guys think? And in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a gorgeous, easy fall wreath in under 10 minutes. This wreath is stunning, but it's super easy. You would not believe how easy it is, and it goes together so quickly. So if you are excited and you love fall, hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. The materials you're going to need for this wreath are a grapevine. I'm using a 14-inch grapevine base for this. And then you're going to need a few things, and they all came from Hobby Lobby. So these are some fall picks. This one's like a mix of different things. I just love it. It's got some fall eucalyptus, some wheat and berries. Such a pretty mix. I have 2 different colors of this. I love it. They're like little bunny tails. I'm not sure what they're called, but they sure are cute. And then I have these, which are fall colored berries and leaves. They're cream berries and fall colored leaves. Aren't they pretty? So I have 4 picks of each of those. You're also going to need some wire cutters, hot glue, and a hot glue gun. The first thing we're going to do is take one of these picks. I start with this one, put some hot glue on the back, and then just stick it along the grain of the grapevine, just like that. If you need to add more glue on top, you can, just to make it extra secure. And then we're going to go with our darker grass here, darker of the 2 grasses. Cut the stem, and then I'm just going to layer that on top, right next to it. Just like that. Isn't that pretty? And now we're going to do one of these, cut the stem, and then layer that on top of that. These colors so pretty together. Oh, I love it so much. And now I'm going to take the lighter colored grass and just layer that over here. Now we're just going to start the pattern over again with this one. Add some glue, stick it into the grapevine so it covers the stem of the previous pick. Isn't that gorgeous? We have so many pretty fall textures. the picks that you already put down, just lift them up a little bit and you can put these stems into the grapevine underneath that so that they all cover each other's stems up. And it looks really nice. So this lighter color we only need 3 of because that's how it worked out. But how gorgeous is this? And of course you can always play with it and fluff it around. I just absolutely love it. What do you guys think? I love this wreath, and look how easy it was to come together. Were you expecting it to be that easy? All right, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think, and what is your favorite fall color this year? I would love to know.